Hi friends, I'm LJ Jarvis, and welcome back to the Lewis Jarvis Show. Within Warhammer 40k, there is a library of amazing female characters found within both lore and the tabletop. So I figured, just for the fun of it, I thought of making a video for you guys about my top 5 favorite female characters found within the tabletop game of Warhammer 40k. Before we get into the video though, there are a few rules to keep in mind before I present to you my list. The first rule is that this is concentrated on the main 40k tabletop game. So unfortunately, characters found within Necromunda or Blackstone Fortress won't be within this list. And characters found within books who don't have models, they won't be on this list either, for obvious reasons. And the second rule is that because this is about 40k, characters found within the AOS tabletop won't be on this list either, though that could be another list for another time. Another important factor is that these are characters, as in these models need to have a name to class them as a character. They don't need to have like a huge library of lore and backstory, but they at least need to have a name, something that will make them distinctive from all the other models. So unfortunately, the female magus found within the Genestealer cults won't be on this list. The final rule is that this is based off of personal taste, as in these are models that I like. But with all this in mind, let's begin. First one up on this list goes to the 40k Aussie herself, Sgt Repper Jackson of the Catachan Jungle Fighters. So when Games Workshop revealed a female character for not just the Astra Militarum, but for the Catachan Jungle Fighters, people were absolutely floored with this model. And even though this is a model that doesn't have like a huge library of lore or backstory, the model itself is really cool and something that I hope Games Workshop will continue to do for factions like the Militarum, or more specifically on the Catachan Jungle Fighters, as in the idea of doing a whole new range of plastic Catachan Jungle Fighter models. And with that idea, and because of Jackson, do both males and females. And if you think of it, this also opens up Pandora's box for Games Workshop. Because with Jackson's model, not only does it show that the fanbase appreciates spotlight on factions that aren't Space Marines, but it also shows that female models within a Militarum can work. Personally, I hope that something like this happens for the Militarum with the 9th edition. Hopefully we'll get like female Acadians and maybe a whole new range of Catachan Jungle Fighters. Hopefully they pursue this idea for 9th edition. And if they do, I think this will be a brilliant way to update an old army like the Militarum. I would put this model higher up on a list because of the opportunity this opens up for Games Workshop, but because it was a store-exclusive model, and not something that you can buy on the web store, unfortunately I had to put this on the bottom of the list, as this was basically a collector's item and not something that the mass of people can buy. The fourth spot on this list goes to Ariel Stern of the Adeptus Sororitas. For a video like this, of course a Sororitas would be on this list, though it was difficult to decide who. I could have given it to Celestine's new model, I could have given it to Viridian, or I could have given it to Junith, the most original character to be added into the Sisters of Battle. But for here, I decided that Ariel Stern should get the spot. But why her? My reasoning is that I think Ariel Stern was a great way to finish off the Psychic Awakening series. And the reason why I say this is because not only did we got a whole new model of Ariel Stern, but we also had her comic books reprinted as a graphic novel, and we had a whole new book centered around her. So for all this stuff given to one character, I think this was a great way to finish off the Psychic Awakening series. And because of Stern being given such spotlight, I think this also shows to some people of the fanbase that the Sisters of Battle aren't the token army as they believe, as Games Workshop will continue to give these sisters a whole bunch of new stuff as the game continues. as in they'll continue to get new stuff, that their characters will get such spotlight and are going to get their own books, like almost any other character found within the 40k setting. That the sisters aren't the army that's found within the background, rather they're going to be front and center like almost every other faction. And characters like Stern has shown this, especially with all the spotlights that she was given for Psychic Awakening's conclusion. And for number 3, this spot goes to Czar of the Eldari. Now, here's a little backstory. I always wanted to do a small little Eldari army. However, I felt like the Eldari faction wasn't really available, as in there wasn't really much to collect. We only had Plastic Guardians, we had Plastic Avengers, we had Wraith Lords, we had Wraith Guards, the Wraith Knight, but I felt like it wasn't much, because I didn't really like all the Finecast stuff. So when Games Workshop released the first book of Psychic Awakening, and also revealed new models for not only the Howling Banshees, but for also Czar, I thought to myself, wow, what a great way to update an ancient army like the Eldari. Not only having an entire campaign book focused on their race, but also giving us new models for a faction that I always hoped would get something nice. So in a way, Czar and her Banshees kind of show the opportunity this also gives Games Workshop to really do something cool for the Eldari factions. Because with them giving us plastic Banshees, this could also give us plastic Striking Scorpions or Fire Dragons, and give us models for their respective Phoenix Lords. But out of all the Aspect Warriors that they could have given new plastic models to, I'm glad it was the Banshees, as I have always been interested in their lore and thought that Czar's new model would look spectacular if Games Workshop were to give her the light of day. So down the line, when I make my dream Eldari army, I can't wait to pick up Czar and having her lead my Craft World sect of Howling Banshees. And I am forever grateful that Games Workshop gave such spotlight for a faction that truly did need something new. Now, despite being on the thumbnail of this video, the second spot on this list goes to Efrain of the Inari. Now, some backstory again. When the 7th edition to 40k was coming to a close, Games Workshop made some huge changes to the setting that, I believed, opened a whole new library of stories that they could tell. And one of these changes that I thought was most interesting would be the introduction of Efrain and her Inari. And the reason for this is that I always kind of like the idea of the Eldari making a whole new god, a god that would aid them with their war against Lanesh. So, with Games Workshop introducing Efrain, and her opening up a whole new sect of Eldari named the Inari, I always believed that this was an interesting route to take a faction like the Eldari. And Yvraine is a pretty neat character really when you look into her lore. And they really did go high and low with Yvraine's design. Because in my point of view, she has the best design out of all the Eldari models found within the tabletop. But that is because of personal taste. I find the character interesting, and I can't wait to see what kind of stories that Games Workshop will tell about the Inari within 9th edition. Hopefully we'll get some really neat stories, and I can't wait to find out what kind of direction that they'll take the character of Yvraine, especially with her relationship with the Imperium of Man. As for number 1, it was truly difficult on deciding who would take the spot. There are so many amazing characters found within the tabletop game, but I had to be honest with myself on who would get the crown on this list. And if you were to follow me on social media, it's probably a no-brainer who got the spot. That being Commander Xiaoshan of the Tau Empire. Ever since I bought my first Tau Codex, and when I read bits of her lore, I always thought she was a very interesting character. So I was a bit surprised that despite Commander Farsight be given a new model, even though it was Finecast, it was still new, and that she herself wouldn't get one. I always thought it was a missed opportunity to do something really cool for the character. So when Games Workshop gave her a new model for Psychic Awakening, to me, this made her the gem out of the whole collection of Psychic Awakening models. Because to me, Xiaoshan, just like with Jane Czar, kind of shows how far Games Workshop has come over the years. When Games Workshop creates new models, it isn't really just slapping plastic together, rather it's an art. And characters like Xiaoshan really show the artistic skill that the designers from Games Workshop have. So again, out of all the models that were released during Psychic Awakening, to me, Xiaoshan was a gem out of all of them. I am proud to have this gem to be part of my collection of models. And hopefully Games Workshop will produce more gems down the line. And with that, this list has come to a close. This has been my top 5 list of ladies found within the 40k tabletop game. So again, if you have your own personal top 5 list of female characters found within the tabletop game, either 40k or AOS, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear them. But with all said and done, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with a brand new video. Have a good day, everyone. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to subscribe, then make sure to activate the bell notification button so you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.